Hello and thank you for tuning in. Occasionally I'm approached by people asking for advice on how to survive during these very difficult times. And one strategy I quite often tell them about is moving off-grid and becoming self-sufficient. Joining us to discuss this further is Robbie Thomas, administrator of the group Off-Grid Living, Leaving the Matrix. He has so much valuable information to share with the viewers, so let's cross over to that interview now. You provide essential information for people to help prepare for their future. Thank you for joining me. How are you going there today?
Going great, Jeff. Thanks for inviting me on your show.
You're more than welcome. So you've seen the dreadful state the world is in and where we're heading, and you started seeking other alternatives. Is that how you got started with this?
Yeah, I guess many of us go down the route of years of looking at what's, awakening to what's going on in the world. And, we have to realize it's not like it's just all of a sudden started. It's just coming more to light, the people who control what we do and what governments are about and things like that. And people go through that stage of awakening, and then they go down the rabbit hole, don't they? They go down the, learning all the negative sides of things and, is this really what it's all about? And you can easily get caught up in that. And many years ago, I did, back in, around 2006 to 2008 in particular. I was researching about, all the things that were wrong with the world, and it put me in quite a low space. But more recently, I've realized that, what we focus on, we give more power to. So rather than fight things and fight a crumbling system, why don't we create new worlds and just focus on what we really do want now?
Absolutely. That's positive thinking and assessing all options. A lot of people had time during these lockdowns to assess their future, how they're going to move forward. A lot of people, as you know, their businesses have collapsed. A lot of people have lost their homes. So they're looking at pooling their money in and purchasing parcels of land, building small communities with friends. And they're really looking at that as a viable option, and starting small communities, bringing their own skill sets to the table. This is a very valuable way of living, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And in our group, it's taken off exponentially. So we've got now just on Facebook 74,000 odd members, maybe 75,000 now, and it's growing all the time. But a common question I get asked is what you just touched on then, is people feeling that they need ownership of land. For years, I suppose everything we do in the past is for a reason. So for years, I was a property investor, but I learned ways to purchase property, no money down. And actually, back then, we'd borrow more than the amount of the property loan and add value to it with the extra money, and then increase the value of the property. Now, I'm not saying to get loans, but what a lot of people are focused on is, I'm forever trying to save for a deposit to get property, and they keep moving the goalposts because property prices keep going up. So I can't get hundreds of thousands of dollars together. Well, I'm here to say that you don't need to. For years, I bought many properties back then in suburbia. So if you can do it in suburbia, you can do it way off grid a lot easier, because there's a lot more offers often on suburban inner city properties or near city properties. But developing your skill sets is so important. So one thing I developed is the art of negotiation, and particularly negotiation isn't I win, they lose. True negotiation is give them what they want, and you will always get what you want in return. So, symbiotic relationships. So learning those skills, I was able to back then purchase lots of properties, no money down. And in fact, often I'd say I've got $100 on my credit card, and I put that down as a deposit for the property. Then I convinced the bank to loan me the money and extra money to renovate. But we don't even have to do that anymore. Like, I've gotten over that need of ownership. So I get a lot of people come to me and they say, I really want to own my property and have control of it. Well, you never really do. In Australia, you don't technically own below what's the blade of grass, really. If anyone who says I own my property outright, I say stop paying your rates bills and see how long you own it. So we're conditioned to think that way. But what is a mortgage? It's the real meaning of mortgage is debt till death.
Exactly
mortgage.
right, and that's very well explained for the viewers. And it just goes to show that people with professional backgrounds like yourself are looking into this, people with occupations and a history in real estate. It's not just a bunch of hippies looking at starting a commune. It's actually a viable living space. And for some people, they may not have the capital or the finances to embark on such an adventure. They can even look at possibly purchasing an RV or camper van and do it independently as well, can't they?
Yeah, that's what I've done for many years. I've lived free, traveling town to town without a job or government support. I've always found a way through my passions to earn gifts on the way. So see how that's a way to exit the matrix system, is by receiving gifts, being open to receive. How do we receive enough gifts to flourish and be abundant and always have enough? Because a lot of people are so focused in this mindset of I need more than enough. I need to squirrel away for all this money for one day, but we only ever need enough to be happy. And I'm a lot happier now when I can pull up next to a waterfall, pull out my guitar, play town to town, run some workshops, things like that. And on my own time and doing what I love. So it's really about learning skills to make yourself valuable so other people give you gifts and becoming open to receiving those gifts. And then we can have more a gifting trade economy that's set up, that's more free from the matrix. Obviously, when I say matrix, we can never technically leave this matrix existence unless we go to higher density. So, fourth density, fifth density and beyond. But it's ways of thinking outside the square. So with property, a lot of people feel they need that ownership. If they could only get over that and realize, hey, if I learn some skills, I don't need money. There's plenty of people, particularly in our group, I get messages all the time. Robbie, I've got 34 acres. I've got 50 acres. I've got 400 acres. And we've realized that just us alone can't thrive on this. We need a community. We need a tribe here. So if people listening said about learning the right skills, you never need that ownership of property. There's plenty of people who own their properties outright that would want you to come on board. Now, different skills, musicians, hairdressers, people who know syntropic and permaculture, farming principles, people with trade skills like carpentry, building tiny houses is going to be a real big one for people to learn soon. People with knowledge of plant medicines, rather than using the broken profit equals sickness medical model that everyone's suddenly waking up to now and seeking alternative ways to heal themselves and to thrive. So once they learn those skills, it's no longer important to have that ownership or even buy into a property, where there's plenty of people who technically own their properties and want to bring on more skilled people to those properties. And another thing about ownership is, back when I was a property investor, a lot of the people who spoke on stage about that in the early 2000s, they'd say, statistics show in Australia that most people don't own a property, especially an investment property, for more than 5 years. So it's not a forever thing. It's just we're taught in our mind it is. The mortgage can feel like a forever thing because, we pay back so much in interest. So, getting their head around is, maybe I don't need to own it. I've been sold the wrong dream. I can collaborate with others, and someone might own a property, and we're getting many people like that at the moment who want to start community and bring on people with skills, people they get along with, people to help bring up the children, unschooling and homeschooling skills. And
that's a wonderfully positive attitude to have. and to look forward. These skills are valuable that you can have for the rest of your life. Sadly, it took people to face a lot of police brutality. It took for their lives to crumble before they were pushed that far out of their comfort zone, where they had to look at some of these options. But yes, it's a key to survival, and learning how to forage for food. There's an abundance of bush tucker. People can learn to live off their land. People with gardening experience, that's a viable source of food. Getting it fresh, non-GMO. So there's many benefits to this. Natural living, like you said, some people are trapped in these lower frequencies when they're living in cities. Their greed, jealousy, envy, wanting more, this abundance living. But when you're out with nature, living close to waterfalls, getting back serenity and living like that, learning how to tie knots and building a bug out bag would be very important advice. Having a flint and a life straw, learning how to build shelter as well. Getting back to the basics is very important, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's what, through the group, we didn't want to just leave it on Facebook as an information group. So we're now doing in-person workshops and even gatherings. So we had our first gathering over New Year's, where instead of last New Year's, instead of people drinking, it was a no alcohol event. People came along to learn about all different workshops. So we had days filled with different workshops that were about an hour to 2 hours in length. And over the weekend, afterwards, I got messages from people saying, this is one of the first New Year's I haven't got drunk or drank, and I feel like it was my best New Year's ever. I've learned so much now to assimilate all that knowledge and put it to practice. So we're excited. We'll be releasing our next off-grid gathering in July. So that's something we're really excited about, because the first one went so well. We have teachers that we involve in that I call teachers of light. So people I've met along the way and through the group that have different specialities. Now, I don't like to say experts, because expert, I'm not an expert in anything. That closes me to learning new things. We're always learning, remembering skills we might have had in other lives, other dimensions. And it's been really exciting recently to bring together these, what I call teachers of light, who might be specialty in different areas, like food forests, like, as you said, food foraging, like bushcraft skills, and having those in-person events now and trainings. Now, obviously, we can't get to everyone in Australia at the moment. We're doing them in Sunshine Coast and Brisbane and Northern Rivers, so Northern New South Wales. But soon we're hoping to get around Australia, and also we're launching a website soon. We've already launched the website, but soon we'll be adding a lot more training to it, called goingoffgrid.org. So people who are in more remote areas that might have access to internet, because internet's quite easily accessible throughout Australia pretty much now, they can learn these skills as well.
I think that's absolutely brilliant, and credit to you doing that. Very rewarding, teaching people these skills that they'll have for life, and they'll remember those workshops. Hopefully they happen nationwide. Everybody should be looking into this, and even basic first aid training as well. If you're out in the bush, knowing how to treat somebody for perhaps a snake bite or sprained ankles. All of this is very important, because living out bush, you haven't got the luxuries that a lot of people depend on, medical centres and as such. So having basic first aid is very important. Teaching people fishing as well, and trapping, all different survival skills. And I think that's very important when everybody brings their talents and their expertise, and these workshops, very brilliant. That's going to be a great way to move forward, and teaching people as well how to master their attitude and keep a level head when out in the bush, and not to panic, and how to relax, because it's a whole different experience that is very foreign to a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's good you mentioned, Jeff, the first aid, because that's so important. If in this modern, we're waking up to that. We're actually coming out of the dark ages. It's not like we're taught this is modern civilization. No, it isn't. Back hundreds of years ago, they knew natural ways to treat the cause rather than symptoms of things. And survival training, which I just started and planning on getting around Australia, that was the first session that I released, was in the workshop in-person sessions. I was taking people like Sunshine Coast. We just had one around 40 beautiful souls turned up, and in nature by the waterfall, by Butterham Waterfalls. We had one in Brisbane and one in Gold Coast recently, where the first session I do is focusing on plants for first aid and medicinal use. Now, a lot of people don't realize some of these plants and herbs they have in their cupboard already, but they know of maybe the ingestion properties, but some of these plants have amazing external applied properties. So one in particular, a lot of people don't realize, and I teach a bunch of these in this course, but one of my favorite ones is cane pepper. So now we think of cane pepper to hot up our chili or whatever, but cane pepper is a powder. Most people don't know, and I talk to a lot of people like paramedics even, who don't even realize the qualities of cane pepper. We got hit by a storm once, and I got cut quite badly by a pergola that got mangled. You know how when metal breaks, it's razor sharp. And so I was gushing blood. I was about to out of my leg, and I cut across my thumb near vein there. And quite a bit of blood's coming out, and I obviously had to run the gathering and didn't want to go off and get bandaged up. And often, you know, when we bandage ourselves up, when we're bleeding, the blood keeps flowing, doesn't it? Yeah. So what I did is I just went to my van calmly, got the cane pepper out, tipped a bit on both cuts, and within a couple of seconds, the blood had stopped, because it's a blood regulator. It knows what to do. So rather than, we have all these people taking blood thinners as medication, God, you've probably heard, God help you if you cut yourself.
Lucky you had presence of mind to think of that at the time. That sounds horrendous, and a lot of people would have panicked. But it's marvelous when it comes to the healing properties that a lot of plants and what's available in nature. Just for about nearly every sickness or every disease, there's a plant that can cure it. Even for something as a topical treatment that it can be used, it really is extraordinary. And that's where a lot of the pharmaceuticals are derived from plants. So people get back to the source, back to nature, a lot of plants, healing modalities, natural therapies. That's the answer. And the benefits can be very powerful, and a lot of the harmful side effects are not attributed. So it really is a miracle. And being able to identify a lot of these plants that are out in the wild, that is a key to success. And there's a lot of books, a lot of literature people should be studying up on and looking at how to identify that, and also what's dangerous as well, and what to steer clear from. There's a lot of wild fungi and a lot of plants and berries that people should stay away from, and that can have disastrous effects. So it's very important survival skills, what's safe and what's not, isn't it?
Yes, exactly, Jeff. And mentioning, it's good you mentioned the books, because what we found is sometimes these books are actually incorrect. They might talk about, so say the pandanus fruit, for example. Our original people could eat it raw. Because they probably were, it's in their DNA. They've been doing it many, many generations, you know, millennia, right? But what many white people found is that when they eat pandanus fruit, their tongue and their lips would swell up. They'd get stomach aches. So that's an important one to cook, but you might find some books that say eat it raw because we saw our original people do it. Now, so it's important to actually, once you learn this stuff, to try it, but try it in stages. There's an important thing, the universal edibility test. So separating all parts of the plant that you're going to have, to make sure, because, you know, if you can find out you can ingest a leaf, it doesn't mean that the root is able to be ingested of the plant. Certain different parts of the plants could be poisonous or give you anaphylaxis, right? So allergic reactions. So it's important to separate all parts. And in a survival situation, a lot of people think, oh, if I don't eat now, I'm going to die, right?
Mhm.
The human body can go a long, long time without food. It's just most people who pass quickly from not having food, it's more a mental state they're putting themselves in. It's like it's like they're willing that, you know, through worry, rather than if we just relax and know we've got a long time without food that we can survive, then we can take the time to, if we're not sure about a plant, test it slowly. So with the universal edibility test, you might test it by rubbing, and again, separate different parts of the plants would be tested separately by rubbing on a soft skin area, waiting some time, rubbing it on the lips, waiting some time then, and then before eating, after you know you haven't got a rash after waiting, or a swollen lips after waiting at that stage, then taking some more time just to have a tiny little bit of the plant on the tongue, not ingesting much, and then waiting a good, you know, good hour, 2 hours, even longer if you're not sure, if you feel like, and looking out for any sort of reactions they might have, whether it be rashes, swollen tongue, before actually knowing that you can consume that plant.
That's life-saving information, very important. I've heard that before as well. If a rash develops on the skin, that's an indication that it's poison. And yeah, everybody should be looking into that. This information people take for granted because they're so used to going to their supermarkets. Everything's prepackaged, everything's laid out for them, takeaways. So yeah, to learn that information, that can be very beneficial. Would you recommend people start at this point in time looking at a bug out bag, some type of perhaps camouflage bag stocked up with a knife, flint, water, basically everything you need, information on survival, ropes, information on how to make weapons, and non-perishable items as well?
Yes, definitely. But learning the skills. So if you have the right skills, you don't really need anything. We could, like our original people, once we learn these skills, could walk naked from, say, I'm in Queensland, from here to the top of Queensland, just knowing a few correct plants and learning these skills out in the wild with a good teacher, a good bushcraft teacher, that you can make what you need without even having a knife. That's, I think, the real way to survive, because often, even if you have a bug out bag, if there's some sudden emergency, like we saw in Northern Rivers, the floods rose so quickly. And I knew people, the floods, they had high set houses that weren't able to be insured. It was like more than $20,000 a year to insure them because they knew it was flood. But they had storage spaces up in their roof where they put all their valuables. But that last flood went a meter above these high set roofs. So meters and meters of water suddenly coming up. Even their bug out bag might be washed away. So knowing the skills that you can survive in a complete catastrophe, if there was one, and be able to, without any clothes, without anything, be able to start, oh, you know, I know this plant is edible. I've learned these skills in the wild, not just reading about it, going out, trying them, making sure they're not allergic, obviously, to these plants, and knowing in advance. That's the way to go, I believe, and that's why we're running these workshops in person. And I've been teaming up with other really skilled people in bushcraft areas, and you know, all areas of survival.
That's marvelous and very much needed at this point in time. And people will notice a change within themselves. Just a few days going without a mobile phone or being plugged up to the mainstream media, watching news religiously on their televisions, when they're out with nature, the wildlife, the birds, sitting by a creek, listening to the running water, that's very calming, and a lot of therapeutic qualities people can benefit from, and they'll notice their stress levels drop quite significantly, won't they?
Exactly. Yeah, I've been barefoot for years now, It's great because it keeps me out of pubs, so I don't drink anymore. And being barefoot, it's often funny when I'm in a city because I often street perform town to town. It's the way I receive gifts and can keep moving on without the need for a job or government support. Often when I'm in a city, people look at me and go, "Where are your shoes?" And they won't believe that I've been barefoot for years. One guy said, "Go and scuff about a bit, you'll get glass in your foot." And I'm like, I can walk, after a while, you can walk over glass. You very rarely get glass in your feet, but I always laugh and say, "Tell me there's bindies. I never get sick. I never get used to bindies. They always stick in your feet, So I'm out of there if there's bindies, right? But being barefoot for so long, it's a way of earthing. You've probably heard of earthing. Technically, we're in like a battery. So if we can get out more in nature, we're building our life force energy. Being barefoot in nature, we're letting out all those negative ions and electrons out through the ground. We're connecting with Mother Nature. So we're feeling, as you said, we're feeling the tree roots, the Mother Nature below us, sending us that power. And there was a few things that were done, I believe, to keep us in a low vibrational state or keep us controlled, particularly around the 1930s to 40s after the Great Depression. So we'd go blindly to work in factories. And one you might know of is chemical fluoride in our water.
Absolutely.
Technically gives us a lobotomy or a chemical
100%.
lobotomy. Yeah, and keeps us in a, that was supposedly developed. Number two, we were told they changed our frequency. So I love teaching musical frequencies because I'm a musician first and foremost. I love teaching survival, but music frequencies is my core area because everything is frequency. The more you look at it, no matter what religion or science said, they all agree on that thing. Like science says there was the Big Bang, that was the sound that created everything. Religion might have said there was the word of God, or there was Amen, or there was, Shiva, the creator, the destroyer, the maker of music, right? Musical frequencies. Neptune tuned the ocean, so it's all frequency, and our body is like an instrument and we need to be in tune. So listening to correct frequencies, so moving away from the modern 440 hertz musical system and looking at, I've created a lot of albums in 432 hertz, which is more aligned with our chakras, more aligned with nature, gets us into a flow state, helps bipolar, depression, anxiety, so many areas, insomnia, autism, can help calm. We use certain tunings that can temporarily switch off the overthinking prefrontal cortex and fire up the right-hand creative side. And the third thing they did, other than change, so they made us wear rubber-soled shoes. So they put fluoride in our water, they changed our frequency so it's out of kilter, so our bodies are out of state, and in music, and then they made us wear rubber-soled shoes. So what does that do? That stops us from earthing. And one thing, for years now, I've been barefoot. I'm not that old yet. I'm turning 48 this year, but I believe that and those three things, changing them. So instead of washing and drinking fluoride water, I've changed my life so I can wash at waterfalls any day I want. So I like to at least every second day go to waterfall and wash under pure living water and drink that water from the waterfall barefoot in nature and with these frequencies. So yeah, the rubber-soled shoes also, that stops us from earthing, and by being barefoot, our life force energy just goes through the roof.
Very well said. And it's remarkable, isn't it? And credit to your healthy living. And you raised some very important points there. It is very much the sodium fluoride calcifying people's pineal gland. They're basically lulled into, a lot of the time, a trance, and there's no room for free and creative thoughts. And a lot of their potential has been suppressed, and that's right. And as well as the towers as well, the smart meters, we're living in a radiation soup and being bombarded with all these microwaves as well. That keeps people's frequency unbalanced. And there's so many factors into this to try and destabilize the population. And so we're not operating on our right frequency. But yes, I've touched on that subject as well here, the sound healing. And that's like magic, the way that operates. You said 432 hertz frequency and 528 as well. People
528, the frequency of love. Yeah.
Yeah.
528 is a great one because they measured the frequency of a rainbow, and from the center of a rainbow, the frequency of 528 comes out. So it's creating those beautiful colors. 528 hertz. Yeah, some refer to it as the frequency of love. The way I refer it to is 528 hertz is known to purify and activate water. So bring back the power in water, the healing powers. It's amazing. It can be used, it's even been studied in alcoholics to reduce cell death in alcoholics. By listening to it for as little as 4 minutes can reduce cell death in alcoholics by up to 20%. And not only that, it increases cell virility in our bodies by 100%. So yeah, that's why I love teaching the magical frequencies. But then when the herbs come in, they're just high frequency vibrational herbs. So they have a sound frequency of their own. We can't hear it. But, you know, when we talk about negative things like fluoride, listening to these correct frequencies like 528 hertz, 432 hertz music, plus using herbs that I believe are the antidotes to things like chemical fluoride, like turmeric. A lot of people have turmeric ingested, but they don't realize that turmeric's even more powerful externally applied, just as fluoride is actually affects our pineal gland probably more when we're in the shower than when we're drinking it, because it goes through this channel that's directed straight to the pineal gland, which is deep in our brain, but there's a channel right here. That's why the ancient women, they used the bindi, which was turmeric mixed with hydrated lime, which had turned the turmeric red. And that was the true reason behind the bindi, was to have it there so it'd put the turmeric through that channel to the pineal gland and decalcify it. So work the opposite way to fluoride, open it up. And when we look at our pineal gland, that's the root of what I call the root of disease, and can be the root of all our healing for many, many things, because pineal gland is responsible for things like melatonin, melanin, serotonin, our feel-good receptors. If we're feeling good, we can heal ourselves. And we're taught these often wrong words in society, inversions on words. So the true meaning of the word incurable, we're taught is actually, you know, we're taught growing up that I can't be cured. If the doctor says it's incurable, no one can cure it. But the actual meaning of that word is cured from within. So if we can learn about, you know, these frequencies more, these herbs, that's why I'm so passionate about teaching it. We're treating the root areas, and one major area is, as well as the heart, the stomach, we've got our pineal gland, which is responsible for, you know, all those healing things, melanin, melatonin, serotonin.
Very interesting and important information, and everybody should be looking into that. Detoxification, cleansing themselves mentally, spiritually, and physically as well. And over time, it can be one of the best decisions one could make. And, you know, when people have seen their businesses collapse and their life changing, it can be very frightening, but it can also come as a blessing. And if you're versatile, you're able to adapt to a new lifestyle, look into it. It can be one of the most soul-satisfying journeys one could go on, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You hit the head on the nail there. I look at it like a blessing. A lot of people message me through the group or online through other means, and they'll say, look, I feel it's all over. I've had this job for, 20 years or, 5 years or whatever it be. And suddenly, I've been, they've just thrown me out the door. And I'm like, that's a good thing. You're standing in your power. You're actually there in that job to show them, most people don't realize when stuff like that's happening, other co-workers around them are seeing you stand in your power. They're finding that in them. it's like the stories of the Garthans, whether people believe in what's below us or not. I love, our original people talk about what's below us. They don't look up to the stars so much. Well, they do, but there's more of the song lines, the song circles of the land. And, I've been told by elders that where a creek flows, there's another creek parallel under our earth. And the Hopi Indians were supposedly sent down to bring up the vibration of the Garthans that were going through a similar thing that we're going through now. And just one person shining their light can bring up the consciousness of thousands around them because of the power of that light and the power of positivity as opposed to negativity and frustration. What you said before, that a lot of people are looking at like leaving their job as the end of it, when you should be really looking, when one door closes. This is one thing I learned to recognize years ago, back when, because I haven't always been doing off-grid stuff, doing sound healing for a while there. I was running business clubs and learning personal development and teaching people how to do online businesses in the Gold Coast for years. And one thing I gained from all that, reading books on personal development, things like that, is a commitment to lifelong learning, recognizing when one door closes, it's not over. It's actually a time to get excited because a bigger one is opening, especially if you close that door. If you stand in your power and whatever it be, say, I'm not getting that, I'm not doing that, right? But I'm going to find what I love to do. Another door is always waiting around the corner, but most people don't see it, and they it's like trying to pull up the roots before the plant has sprouted above, to check the roots are there, and ruining what it is. It's a matter of, because we're stepping towards that fourth density and beyond, where we're evolving as a species into higher densities, which means right now, a lot of people don't realize the power of manifestation and how that's become exponentially greater. So we can picture something, particularly take time for meditation and picture something in our heart, in our mind, feel it. And then it's a time coming up that's more, it used to, you might have heard about The Secret and the Law of Attraction they were teaching years ago.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, now it's a lot quicker. It's speeding up. So it's coming towards a time of instant manifestation. And once you start recognizing that, you'll find it's all these synchronicities happening in your life, and you realize how in control of everything around you actually are. And that was why, and a good big sign of that, why were they putting chemical fluoride in our water, making us wear rubber soled shoes, changing the pitch of our music? Because we can't be controlled if we wake up to our true God self, as for lack of a better word. We were born to be creators and manifestors. And when a few of us do it, it shines the light for more and more. And soon the whole world will wake up to their powers. And it's not like a lot of people think, oh, if I can have whatever I want, there's less for someone else. No, there's not, because not everyone wants the same thing. Like you or I might love the idea of van life. So when I first got my van, my friends back then, when I was in the business world, they were like, you're going to last a month in this. Now it's been 8 years. It's my dream. It's not theirs. So if we each get what we want, some people will be going more into the meta universe or whatever. That's what they want. Others of us are moving away from that. Like I haven't had a TV for many years.
Wow.
Occasionally I'll watch, a show when I get a chance or download something, but I prefer to watch documentaries. I prefer to be out in nature. I love, during the week, I've changed my life. So I'm at waterfalls during the week when there's no one there. So it's all to myself, or the right people there. You stumble across people who are like you. And it's a time also of finding our own tribe and working together and not having this separation. So if someone chooses the route of something that we don't resonate with, like there's this big division with people who bought into the perpetuation of the last few years, and oh, I'm separate from you because I've had the jab, and or I'm doing this or whatever. I don't feel there's a separation there. I'm there to help them, and whoever they may be. It's a good time to realize if we're service to others rather than service to self, we always get more than enough for ourselves. So it's waking up to that. Oh, I need to, be this dragon and keep all my jewels to myself and scare off anyone and build a big cage around my house, like, the wealthy in the world, 1% do. They've caged themselves in, haven't they?
They most certainly do. And that's very well said. They often fear us reaching our true potential. That's why we're always kept in that low vibrational state. But yes, the power of the human mind and the power of psychology, it really is incredible. And when people look at positive thinking, living life in abundance, and really sharing and being at one with their community and take on more of a giving sense instead of taking, then they'll receive more in the long run. That's what a lot of people have said as well. The more they give, the more they get back in return. So exactly. To get into that mind state and break free from the shackles of that greed, wanting and taking, because those people, a lot of the time, they're not happy. It's a constant struggle. And it's really not becoming of oneself. But teaching the workshops, that's really marvelous, helping people empower themselves and embark on this new lifestyle that a lot of people are heading in. So you've got more workshops planned. And what else have you got in store for the future with your group there? It's wonderful to see it growing so fast.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. I'm glad you enjoy the group. We've had so much great feedback from it. When I particularly just started the Facebook group, I got a strong message: don't invite any of your friends to start with. And I'm like, question back was, how is it going to grow? And then it's hit some algorithm or whatever. It was the right timing. 1,000 people a week were joining at one stage, and then at one stage even 1,000 a day were joining. So
fantastic.
We're really excited about where it's heading. But as I said, doing more in-person workshops. So our teachers are like, we're having workshops on things like food preservation, bushcraft. We're bringing on some builders soon and carpenters, so we can do some things like tiny house building. But the big one we've got coming up is the off-grid gathering. In the first weekend of July. So if people are interested in that, they can either find it through the Facebook group or go directly to goingoffgrid.org.
Yep. I'll put all that information in the description, and I urge all the viewers to follow up on that. Continued success with all you're doing. Is there any closing statements that you'd like to leave for people here?
The number one is commit to a life of lifelong learning. That's really paid up for myself and a lot of others that we've brought on board as teachers. Rather than, I love to choose teachers that are open to new learnings always. So I think that's the key, is to realize that if we take on as many skills as we can and follow our passions too, understand that for years I thought I couldn't make money doing what I love, or be in abundance, or be receiving to gifts doing what I love. And I realized it was just something I was taught here. And once I got out of that mindset, I was free to do what I chose and when I chose it, and be able to always have enough. Understand that this world around us is designed to give us enough always. So we're well taken care of, but a lot of people feel, no, I have to do this job or I have to do that even though I hate it. No, you don't. The beauty of this multi-dimensional existence that we have is we can really choose to be our own creators.
Well said. This has been a very powerful broadcast. I thank you once again for appearing on the show. I wish you all the best with everything you're doing. You've provided some very valuable information that the viewers can take with them. Thank you once again. Bye for now.
Thank you, Jeff.
Well, that does it for today's show. I hope you got all the information you need on how to survive off-grid and leave the matrix. I'll catch you on the next episode of the We Are Change talk show, where we cover how to live off-grid, be one with nature, and many more subjects. Catch you then. Bye for now.